Good morning, class 12th. In today's tutorial, we are going to learn that how urbanization and industrialization, the two structural changes brought by Britishers, were happening during the colonial period and how they were taking place immediately after independence. So starting off with the meaning of industrialization. I hope you all must be aware of the fact that industrialization is that period where we use the machinery to produce anything. The human or handmade production is being substituted by the machine production. When we talk about industrialization, we see a lot of factories which are being opened up and agricultural sector is being replaced by the industrial sector. And in the towns, a lot of people start getting a lot of job opportunities in these industries. That is why we always see that industrialization and urbanization are linked processes. How are they linked processes? Because once we bring this industrialization, we start opening up factories. Factories are usually opened up in the urban areas. When they are opened up in the urban areas, so now from the rural areas, the people started migrating to the urban area, leading to expansion of urban area. And the expansion of urban area is what is referred to as the process of urbanization. So industrialization and urbanization are linked processes.
So kids, you can very clearly see through this picture that how the people from rural areas, they are migrating to the cities. The reason behind the same as just being spoken, that the reason was there were a lot of opportunities which were available in the urban areas which were missing from the rural area. Coming up of industries in the urban area has provided a lot of job opportunities. So you can see in these images that how people are migrating from the rural areas to the urban areas.
Now something very important, kids. What was the impact of British industrialization on Indian industries? Now once the Britishers started setting their industries in India, we saw a period of deindustrialization. What is the meaning of this term deindustrialization? It means that our own industries like handloom industry, which was famous at that point of time, that started getting declined. Our industries, when they started getting declined, the areas which were earlier developed, they also started declining along with it. So there were two things which were majorly seen. Because of the British industrialization, we saw first of all deindustrialization in some sectors and secondly decline of old urban centers. Now there is an example, a very good example given in the book, that when we saw this phase of deindustrialization, the example is that we have seen a decline in the export of cotton and silk. Why? Because from outside the silk which was coming, that was much more cheap and glossy. So our own silk which was going outside or the raw cotton which was going outside, there was a very good decline which was being seen because they were not able to face the competition from abroad. Secondly, the cities which were developed earlier, like Surat and Mazolipatnam, which were earlier cities which were developed before the colonial ruling, they started declining and new cities started growing like Bombay and Madras.
So kids, here we are summing up the impact of British industrialization in India. What have we seen? We have first of all seen deindustrialization happening, and because of this deindustrialization, we have seen the decline of old urban centers. Please do remember, there was a decline of old urban centers. There was a decline of cotton industry, which we have seen. There was a mass migration from rural areas, depletion of natural resources, as well as increase of warlike situation. These were the conditions which were being created when the Britishers brought industrialization in our country.
So when industrialization was introduced in our society, its impact was very different from how it was being introduced in Britain. Because when it came in Britain, it was being seen that people from agricultural sector, that means from the rural areas, they started running towards the urban area. But in the very initial phase in India, it was being seen that people from the urban area, they started moving back to agriculture because of the limited resources which were there in our country. So the impact of industrialization in the very beginning phase of Indian society was very different from what it was there in Britain. I will once again repeat, in the very beginning phase in India, the impact was that because of industrialization, the people started moving into agricultural sector instead of moving into urban area or industrial sector. So the next question that arises here is that which were those cities which were favored by Britishers and what was the reason behind it? If we analyze that situation, we have seen that it was the coastal cities only which were being favored by the Britishers. Whether it's Mumbai, Kolkata or Chennai, these were the cities which were being favored and very nicely developed by the Britishers. The simple reason was that these were the coastal cities. Coastal cities made it very easy for them for any kind of import and export that can be done very cheaply, and so these coastal cities became the colonial cities and they were link between colonialized India and Britain. So these colonial cities became the concrete expression of global capitalism. The Britishers have spent a lot of money in development of these cities. Whether we take up the example of Bombay, which was planned and redeveloped by Britishers for a simple reason that 3/4 of India's raw cotton was shipped through this city. Secondly, taking the example of Kolkata, which was exporting jute to Dundee, whereas if you take up the example of Madras, from there coffee, sugar, indigo dyes and cotton was being sent to Britain. So these cities have somehow become the concrete expression of global capitalism. Moreover, it was seen that the old urban centers where the handloom industry and all were very famous, there was a decline seen in those centers and new colonial cities started growing. And therefore, we have seen a lot of infrastructural development, a lot of different kinds of development being done in these cities. Like in case of Kolkata, it was seen Fort William was being established for the defense purpose.
So kids, summarizing for you all once again, just quickly look at the keywords. Cities had a key role in the economic system under the British rule. The very first thing you need to remember is the name of the colonial cities where we have seen that which were being developed by the Britishers. They were Kolkata as well as Chennai. What was the reason that these areas were being developed by them? Because from here the primary commodities could be easily exported and the manufactured goods could be easily imported. That means for the transportation convenience, they have created these port cities as the main areas and have done a lot of development here. Then you have seen that how Bombay, Calcutta and Madras, they were sending different goods to different parts, and that's how they were earning a lot of revenue for the Britishers, and that was the whole and sole reason why the cities were being developed by the Britishers. Madras, Kolkata as well as Chennai. Do remember this, a very important question.
Industrialization and urbanization during the colonial period was completely governed by their own self-interest. A very good example to explain this statement is tea plantation. The official reports very clearly shows us that how the colonial government have used all unfair means to hire the people and they have forcibly kept the laborers. You people have learned in the previous slides also that how the movement of people was happening forcibly from Jharkhand to Assam just for doing the tea plantation. People were never happy. They never wanted to do this tea plantation. They never wanted to leave their place and go to Assam for this tea plantation. But they were being forced by Britishers, and the Britishers have made their laws in such an undemocratic manner that laborers were never getting any benefit out of it. All the benefits were meant only for the planters. Now let us see how the structural changes have taken place immediately after independence. Now when we were about to attain the independence, all our Indian nationalist leaders, for them the major issue was the economic exploitation they were going through during the British era. That is why you must have learned in your history there was a Swadesi movement that came. Swadesi movement has strengthened the loyalty towards the national economy. They have boycotted usage of all kind of British made goods. There were modern ideas all being realized by the people that the poverty in which we are living now is something which is preventable. Now how come these ideas came to them? Because they were being given the Western education by the Britishers. Now Indian nationalists, they realize the fact that this poverty is something which is preventable. Now how we are going to get rid of it? The only way out they can understand is they saw industrialization as the way towards economic growth and social equity. Now they realize that immediately after independence, we are going to do the development of heavy and machine making industry. We are going to do the expansion of the public sector and large cooperative sector so that we can move out from poverty. Similarly, our first Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru, immediately after gaining the independence, his focus was making these dams and power stations. The first dam which was being created by him was Bhakra Nangal Dam, which was part of our first 5-year plan itself. Urbanization in independent India. Now, according to the sociologist M.S.A. Rao, he said that urbanization's impact was seen in very different manner in different situations. He has outlined broadly 3 different situations where urban impact was being seen. Firstly, there were villages where a sizable number of people started moving to very far off cities in order to get employment. They used to leave their family members also in the village only, and they were working themselves in the cities. This is the first impact of urbanization which was being seen immediately after independence. The second impact, he says, was seen around the industrial towns, it was seen in the villages which were situated near the industrial town. Now, example he has given is of Bhilai village, which was there all surrounded by villages only. So, it was being seen that a lot of villages were totally uprooted when the expansion of Bhilai town was taking place. The third impact seen is on growth of metropolitan cities. When we see the growth of metropolitan cities, then also we see urban impact on the surrounding villages. So with this, we have finished this chapter, and the assignment will also be uploaded soon. Kindly complete the assignment, read the chapter, and in case you face any difficulty, kindly do a WhatsApp message or call. Thank you.